é que a baiana
tem torso de seda tem, e tem brinco de ouro tem, corrente de ouro tem pano da costa tem pata rendada tem, e tem pulseira de ouro tem saia engomada tem, sandália enfeitada tem, e tem graça como ninguém.
O que é que a baiana tem?
E como ela requebra bem.
O que é que a baiana tem?
Quando você se requebrar, caia por cima de mim, caia por cima de mim, caia por cima de mim.
O que é que a baiana tem? O que é que a baiana tem?
O que é que a baiana tem? O que é que a baiana tem?
Tem torso de seda tem pano da costa tem saia engomada tem bota vendada sandália enfeitada tem, pulseira de ouro tem brinco de ouro tem, corrente de ouro tem.
Só vai no bom fim quem tem. Só vai no bom fim quem tem. Um rosário de ouro, uma bola tacinho, que não tem balangandang, não vai no bom fim. Oi, que não tem balangandang, não vai no bom fim. Oi, 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 não vai no bom fim.
Our Americans, hello. It was before the war. I was just loafing around one of the big port towns looking for a ship when I saw that map. To understand everything, you ought to know how I got out there.
Tabu, tabu, Obalaba Django, Iemanja, tabu.
All is Brazil, where the sky is bright. Oh, my Brazil, land which God created. You are the first in the world. Before I left the States, I was more or less officially warned to stay away from the subject when I could because of the difficult nature of the problem and consequent sensitivity on the part of many South Americans concerning it. But since you promised me before we went on the air that you'd answer questions about the fifth column in Brazil,
What I like here are the air-conditioned skyscrapers.
that's certainly nothing new to you.
Contrast. That's new. You go up to the top floor of one of these slick buildings and look out towards the hills, see real jungle.
And in the second act, I had to come out with a young lady, a very pretty young lady, and a gentleman had to attempt to assassinate me.
Ladies and gentlemen, this broadcast comes to you by dramatic license from the first place you think of when you think of Brazil. From the loveliest city in our hemisphere. A gorgeous capital with a name that sounds like a music cue, which in this case it is. This broadcast comes to you from Rio de Janeiro. The insects, the animals, all in unbelievable profusion. Monkeys, vampire bats, hummingbirds, jaguars, penguins, crocodiles, giant snakes, parrots.
He would drown the stage with tears.
Oh, I'll have to remember that about the Arabian Nights.
And so, I'm sitting here in this deserted auto camp. And so I'm trying to think. I'm trying to get a hold of myself. Otherwise I'll go crazy. Outside, in the night, the vast, soulless night.
Mais que saudade do Brasil, ai que vontade que eu tenho de voltar. Adeus América, essa terra é muito boa, mas não posso ficar porque o samba mandou me chamar. Mandou me chamar. Eu digo adeus ao boogie-woogie, ao oogie-boogie, ao swing também. Chega de hot, foxtrots e pinotes, que isso não me convém. Eu vou voltar pra cuíca, bater na barrica, tocar tamborim. Chega de likes e alright, de fights good nights, que isso não está mais pra mim. Eu quero um samba feito só pra mim.
The end of that story is that it was the end of the film. We were never allowed to finish it. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamed of in our philosophy.
Samba mandou me chamar. O samba mandou me chamar. Eu digo adeus ao boogie-woogie, ao oogie-boogie, ao swing.
Yeah.
Chega de hot, foxtrots, pinotes, que isso não me convém. Vou voltar pra cuíca, bater na barriga, tocar tamborim. Jogar de likes e orais, de fights good nights. Isto não está mais pra mim. Eu quero um samba feito só pra mim. Oh, 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 oh. voltar. Adeus, América, essa terra é muito boa, mas não posso ficar porque o samba mandou me chamar. O samba mandou me chamar. Eu digo adeus ao bugue-yugue, ao ugue-bugue, ao swing também.
Nos quartéis e nas fábricas, nas cidades e nos campos. Tudo é Brasil. Tudo é Brasil. That means all is Brazil. Catch up with this far-off and multiple melody Portuguese lyrics. Meanwhile, for you neighbors up north, here's the sense of part of it. We say of Brazil, Brazil says it itself, that it's the land of promise. Of course, that's tremendously true.
Eu hoje quero me abraçar no peito em chamas, muitas vulcanas.
Covarde! Gigante! Bate a pé e cuida do país.
Na praça, teu velho Brasil.
Father,
Yes?
what is life?
Life is delightful, my little boy. Don't be afraid of it.
All Brazilians like Brazil, as you say, very much.
Very much.
Yes, very much.
I wonder why that is, Linda. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Orson Welles bringing you a special broadcast from Rio de Janeiro in celebration of the birthday of the President of Brazil. Tudo é Brasil. Tudo é Brasil. That means all is Brazil. By the time the hit parade and the jukeboxes catch up with this suave and multiple melody, English words will have been found for the lovely Portuguese lyrics. Meanwhile, for you neighbors up north, here's the sense of part of it. All is Brazil, where the sky is brighter. Oh, my Brazil, land which God created.
Well, today belongs to the largest family on the globe, our family of American nations. It's our day of thanksgiving for being American.
Who do you think is doing the singing? North America's South American favorite, Carmen Miranda, no other. Carmen, for the benefit of our listeners up north who may be trying to dance to this, may I tell them to relax a little bit and just sort of bounce from the knees?
Ah, please do, Orson, and tell them to enjoy themselves.
Now, enjoy yourself.
You know, Orson,
Yes, I know.
why don't you sing just a little bit of samba with me?
Carmen,
Oh, sit
you
down.
can't sing. No.
Ah, look.
No,
I
please
teach
don't.
you, I
No,
teach
please.
you, I
All right.
teach you.
No, No tabalero da baiana tem. Conversa. Outra vez.
Outra vez.
No tabalero da baiana tem. Se eu pedir você me dá o seu coração, meu amor, se há, me dá.
E no coração da baiana tem o quê?
Ilusão foi, cantarei. Ilusão foi, contemplei. Pra você. You know, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot more to samba.
Aí cantamos essa marcha ao samba. Nega do cabelo, ela campeia. Eu fazia com prazer esse campeia.
Samba isn't just a way of playing North American jazz. Therefore, you've remarked that Dr. Aranya is that rarest of public figures, a handsome man who looks like you could trust him. They certainly trust him in Washington, and you've probably heard all about his popularity there when he was his country's ambassador. Very well, then you've got some idea of his gallantry and dash. You've read that he's a gaucho. Exactly what does that mean to you up north? Before I came here, it didn't mean much to me. Just another word for cowboy. I wish I could put it in words what the gaucho stands for in Brazil, what the gaucho thinks, and what he thought of. I'm afraid I can't do any more than about special sorts of Americans. I mean what we call Americans, Texans, let's say, or Yankees. Well, Oswaldo Aranya is no more like a Yankee than Sam Houston was like Calvin Coolidge. That's one way of putting one part of it. Indeed, if you fail to hear the sound of spurs as the foreign minister steps to the microphone, it isn't because he can't wear them or doesn't like to.
There's good reason why our band can't seem to play it right up north. Samba has its own instrument, for one thing. You find out they've been dancing the samba. I think they'll admit they need very little provocation to begin with. And once they've started dancing, they need no encouragement at all to continue. No one is standing by to give them the rhythm. They roll their own. Using matchboxes, straw hats, tabletops, little pieces of wood, anything at hand. If no one is standing by to stop them, they're quite capable of dancing until dawn, and then another dawn, and then still another. From all this, we neighbors have guessed. Now, I've got a full complement of really top samba players here at the microphone, and they're going to help us now to investigate the anatomy of samba. We're going to see, if you'll excuse me, what makes samba run. Now, I'm no authority, but plenty of authorities are standing by. What you hear now, for instance, sounds like a drum, doesn't it? Well, it looks like a drum. Must have some special name, though, probably unpronounceable. Durdu. Durdu. Yes. Well, that's not so hard, Simon. Looks African.
It is.
Durdu, I might explain, is a rather long, rather narrow drum that tapers down at either end.
This is the first tambourine.
Tambourine.
Yes, go where?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the tambourine is not a tambourine. As you can hear, it has no little jangling metal disc. It's square, for one thing, rather small, very crude looking. It's just a rough frame with some kind of tie.
That's steel.
That's it. There's some skin check. Stretched over one side, yes, that's it. The player beats it with a small stick. The name of the stick doesn't matter, it's just a stick.
This is the second tambourine.
Ladies and gentlemen, tambourine number 2.
And this is important. The second plays a different rhythm from the first.
I was noticing that kind of thing. Very complicated, too.
It is too complicated?
Oh, we'll get used to it.
Well, the next is the pandero.
Pandero. Pandero?
Yes, something wrong, Senor Wells?
Oh, no, Pandero. I was just confused for a minute. It's all right now. They say here in Rio, that the samba is the soul of Brazil. This is a very popular saying, and like many popular sayings, it can be misconstrued. Might lead us to believe, for instance, that Brazilians think seriously of nothing but dancing and singing. This isn't true, as any Brazilian will tell you.
That's right, Orson. It is true. Brazil is a big country, a very big country.
Indeed it is, and a wonderful one.
I like it very much, and every Brazilian likes it very much.
I noticed that, Carmen. Some like the setores of the north, some like the cattle plains of the south, some like the port cities along the coast, some like the jungles in the interior. But all Brazilians like Brazil, as you say, Carmen. Very much. There's a lot to like. There's a lot to tell. Dig that rhythm, you cat. That's the Amazon and the Congo talking.
Pega uma sandália cor de prata, põe no pé de uma mulata, põe com ele fazer ouro.
The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, starring Orson Welles and the Mercury Theatre on the air.
No other broadcast of the Mercury's has been called for again by so many listeners.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been handed a message that came in from Grover's Mill by telephone. Just one moment, please. At least 40 people, including 6 state troopers, lie dead in a field east of the village of Grover's Mill. Their bodies burned and distorted beyond all possible recognition.
Get the flame springers in the mirror and leaks blood at these bastard men. It strikes them head on. Lord, they're turning into flames. Here's by the woods of fire. The gas tanks, the automobiles spreading everywhere. Coming this way now, about 20
I'm obsessed by the thought that I may be the last living man on Earth. I've been hiding in this empty house near Grover's Mill. A small island of daylight cut off by the black smoke from the rest of the world. All that happened before the arrival of these monstrous creatures in the world now seems part of another life. A life that has no continuity with the present. Furtive existence of the lonely derelict who pencils these words on the back of some astronomical notes bearing the signature.
We are living right now in that famous H.G. Wells future, which we all knew about. Take you back to our studio, a little organ music, and then another interruption and so on. We did all of that very carefully and exactly reproduced, as I say, what would have happened, thinking to make the whole thing more effective. But we had no idea how effective it would be, because about halfway through the show, as we were continuing with the script in front of us, we saw that in the control room there were a great many policemen, and every moment more. Now later we found out that the police were as confused as we were, because there wasn't anything they could arrest us for, but there they were, looking fierce. A lot of people talking to other people in dumb show, and a very tense atmosphere was generated in the studio. And we thought, well, something's gone wrong. Some few people have complained and have swallowed what we're telling them about the Martians having come to the world. But we didn't know that it wasn't a few people. It was, in fact, nationwide. I had no idea that I'd suddenly become a sort of national event.
Congratulations on your splendid editorial in this afternoon's Globe. It was almost convincing.
What?
Signed, The Shadow.
What?
Radio was the only medium that imposed a discipline that Orson would recognize. And that was the clock. When it came time for the Mercury to go on the air, there was no denying it. I can't think of one theater production ever that was not postponed. But radio, he knew every week that clock was ticking. That red light would come on and say, on the air. And good or bad, right or wrong, or that was it. It was the only discipline Orson was able ever to accept.
Wherein I'll catch the conscience of the king.
I came on Citizen Kane after they started shooting with him. He pulled a stunt on the studio and got an okay from them to make 3 what he called tests for his film. So he had shot those 3, and they looked at him and realized he was actually making his film. These were the scenes for the film, so they gave him a green light to go ahead.
Before we get away from this microphone, tell me about this film of yours that you've been producing.
It's a new sort of motion picture with a new method of presentation and a few new technical experiments, a few new methods of telling a picture, not only from the point of view of writing, but of showing it. Mr. Wells,
what's the film called?
It's called Citizen Kane.
Citizen Kane, yes. Not C-A-I-N.
No, K-A-N-E. And this is, of course, the kindest and most gracious possible thing to do. Mr. Wells is making it possible for me to do what in America is spoken of as a plug. And
I don't understand these words. I think there'll be a lot of jolly good new noises.
I have no business on this program except insofar as radio programs are my business. That's why I'm here at this microphone.
Before we finished shooting, war started, and he was called to go to South America by our government, to Brazil.
Hello? Ladies and gentlemen, this broadcast comes to you by dramatic license from the first place you think of when you think of Brazil. From the loveliest city in our hemisphere. A gorgeous capital with a name that sounds like a music cue, which in this case it is. This broadcast comes to you from Rio de Janeiro. The Carioca. I've always liked that tune. Cariocas are what you call inhabitants of Rio. It's a word like Angelino or Maverick.
O Rio, o nosso Rio, era um caleidoscópio da música que se fazia no país. O roteiro do filme ninguém conhecia, nem mesmo o autor dizia-se. E as filmagens? Era uma verdadeira bagunça, menos na hora de chegar. Quando a gente chegava no estúdio, eu e Erivelto, ele já estava apontando pro relógio e olhava para mim com aquele olhar de criança que me levou a chamá-lo de Orsi.
Anyway, for Yankee ears, this song really does stand for some part of the excitement of this place. The glamorous, expensive, international side of it. The golden beaches on the Copacabana, the casinos, the smart women and the pretty girls. The side of Rio, the Cariocas are naturally proud of stuff. But there's another side of Rio. Hear it? Not a steamy side, not at all. Even if smart isn't the word for it. No, indeed, if Rio's backyard isn't exactly gala, it's even gayer than Rio's front lawn. There isn't a jazzsmith up north who could ever express it. It sets the music, but the music's all its own. Rich, deep, Brazilian. Comes rolling down to Rio from the hills. Throbs in the streets. Everybody dances to it. Called samba.
Bom, aí o Orson Welles armou a Praça 11 lá dentro do estúdio da Cinédia.
Hey, Bill. Oh, I was thinking of very old times. When our fathers first came here 400 years ago the other day. Imagine the feelings of a skipper of a fine frigate or a bark. A civilized man 400 years ago hove to off the battery here. The very end of the world. He'd land in a swamp, march through the woods, turd in the forests, in the jungles, in the hearts of wild men. Has a fascination, too, that goes to work upon him. The abomination, you know. There's a man I knew once, I'd like to tell you about him. About the girl, too. Listen carefully, if you please. Here comes the samba now.
Lá vem a baiana de saia rentada, samba enfeitada, vem me convidar para sambar. Mas eu não vou. Lá vem a baiana com aperta de contas, pisando nas bancas, dizendo que eu sou do seu ioiô. Mostrando um canso, sendo que é filha de senhor do mas pra cima de pode jogar seu quebrado. Pode esperar sentar na baiana que eu não vou. Não vou porque não posso resistir à tentação de ela sambar. Eu vou sofrer e mesmo esse diabo samba mais mulher e se deixar faz não vou nem amar, porque sei se ela sambar. Lá vem a baiana, sai arretada, samba nem deitada, nem convidada.
But let's have an end to the old stalemates and manipulations. The people want a government of all their nations. The chance to know each other better, to visit neighbors and make friends. They want open borders. They want everything printed in the newspapers so they know whether they like what's going on or whether they don't. They're tired, the people are, of secrets and spies. They're tired of striped pants. The people want their own diplomats, and all these things the people are going to have, unless they're cheated out of them. Paris notwithstanding, we'll know the world's first peace.
Orson Welles again. I can't tell you how truly pleased and proud I am to join the Mercury Brought You First, the story we came to Hollywood to make a movie of. We never did. Maybe someday we will. But I think it's particularly well suited to radio. Here it is. Deliberate masterpiece or a downright incantation. Almost we are persuaded that there is something after all, something essential, waiting for all of us in the dark areas of the world. Aboriginally loathsome, immeasurable.
Dig that rhythm, you cat. That's the Amazon and the conga talking. gentlemen, this instrument, oddly enough, is exactly like our tambourine.
Well, that's the way things are.
Yes, you're quite right. I ought to say that the pandero, is played with the bare hands, one shaking it, the other beating the rhythm.
Now we shall go on, yes? This is the reco-reco.
Reco-reco.
Yes?
Why is it called the reco-reco?
Well, because it's the sound it makes it.
Because it's the sound it makes, that's it.
Yeah.
Very good reason. Brazilian babies can beat out samba rhythm before they can talk. And they can dance to the samba rhythm before they can walk. At least that's what I was told, and I believe it. Here's where the beautiful notion of a united hemisphere has more than mere support or endorsement. Why Brazil has been urging Pan-Americanism and fighting for it since that noble, sensible idea first occurred to people. Right in our part of the world, a concert of the American powers.
Ele armou a Praça 11 no estúdio da Cinédia. De vez em quando a Demar Gonzaga ia lá ver e dizia, esse próximo não vai dar certo, mas dava. E ele resolveu fazer uma jogada diferente. Eu estava na Praça 11 e a Linda Batista estava no Casinho da Urca. Então a gente cantava aquele samba, Batuque no Morro, do Russo do Pandeiro. Ela dizia lá na Urca, gosto de ver batuque no morro, gosto de ver batuque no morro. E eu, na Praça 11, dizia, ai, ai, ai. Pois batuque é bom pra cachorro, pois batuque é bom pra cachorro, ai, ai, ai.
The gay city of Rio de Janeiro, Latin and an African past, and they share a common weakness for carnival.
On this occasion, it's our pleasure to remember that these promises were made and are being kept.
Good thing to have, especially these days. Well, Brazil's got it. Fabulous effort.
Nego na congada, canta, zumba pra fazer, estrangeiro. E eu dizia, era extraordinário. Até houve uma briga danada, que foi gente até para o hospital. Lá na Praça 11 tinha uma cena bonita, ficou linda. Então, o Tioléu vinha descendo assim o morro e passava por uma porta, depois que hasteava a bandeira da escola, ia na cozinha, acendia papel, ia pro terreiro, esquentava os tamborins, porque os tamborins os negros que trabalhavam com as mulheres eram tamborins autênticos, tipo de gato, não era de tarraxa, não. Aí, num dado momento, havia um sinal, todo mundo levantava o tamborim do ar e começava a era bonito, Também ele aproveitou uma outra rua que foi a Praça 11. A Praça 11 era de autoria do Erivelto mais do que minha. Só que eu fiz uns versos que eu li uma reportagem do David Nasser, dizendo que eu acabava com a Praça 11, que ali na Presidente Vargas ia ter o busto do projeto Vargas e tal. Então eu fiz uns versos. Meu povo, este ano a escola não sai. Eu vou lhe dar explicações. Não temos mais a Praça 11 para as nossas evoluções. Ali, onde a cabrocha mostrava o seu braço, um grande homem no bronze será por todos lembrado. Mostrei isso pra opção de sambista, ninguém achou que aquilo dava samba. Eu aí fui chatear o Elivel. Por acaso, o Elivel foi trabalhar no Cassino da Única, ficou mais fácil. Ficou mais fácil, porque eu chateava o Elivel de dia, de noite, de dia, de noite. Até que um dia ele disse, me dá aqui essa porcaria. Botou o papel no joelho, pegou o violão e começou. Vão acabar com a Praça 11, não vai haver mais escola de samba, não vai. Chora o tamborim, chora o...
It's music musicians play for themselves, for their own satisfaction, the way they like it. Nobody who's ever made an honest effort to find out about it has ever failed to end up as a jazz enthusiast. The whole thing started in that good time, wide open, all-night carnival city, which was New Orleans before the last war.
Depois também teve uma cena muito bonita, que era como se fosse na Praça 11, de um menino assim, do tamanho da Jean, que eu conheci hoje, uma garota maravilhosa. O tamanho dela, ele vinha caminhando por uma passarela comprida e olhava para um poste, tinha uma placa, Praça 11. Quando o menino olhava, a placa caía, significando que era o fim da Praça 11.
That's what I was told, and I believe it.
Word to Dr. Getulio Vargas. Mr. President, I'm neither my country's ambassador nor a Brazilian. That's all that singles me out from my fellow Americans.
Because of all his gifts, his genius at playwriting, his ambition, his dynamic direction, his amazing character acting, he has been selected by Camels as the ideal man to conduct So Tonight. Orson Welles makes his bow as the outstanding program director of the era. And I have the very great pleasure presenting him now, Mr. Orson Welles.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. It's a great big chance for me and a great big challenge. I have faith in radio, and the makers of Campbell's Soups have enough confidence in me to give me the direction. Let's hope nobody is mistaken.
Mr. Welles, could you tell us something of your aims? Perhaps something of the kind of thing you hope to do? A star, too, is important, Mr. Welles.
This is my pleasure as well as my honor, because I can't think of anybody you'd rather hear from on Pan American Day. Fellow citizens up in North America, here's our oldest and best friend in South America. Here's a passionately human statesman.
Until then, let's just say that it's a very fertile country, Brazil.
5 weeks ago, he tried out Amelia here at the Orca Casino, where he's appearing. I guess it was the first time a Mexican ever sang a samba in Rio de Janeiro. You wouldn't think Brazilians would like anybody else's version of the samba, would you? Samba is 100% repeated. Here's a real samba, the big hit of the year. Old Macau and his orchestra bring you Amelia. Now, this is the first time most of you listeners on the other side of the equator have heard Amelia. For your benefit, let me explain that Amelia was a wonderful girl. She didn't care about money. She didn't even mind going hungry with a man she loved. Isn't that right, Choo-Choo?
Yes, and the singer has a new girl now, and all she cares about is money.
All the new girl cares.
Amelia was different. She didn't care about girls or jewels or anything except loving him. She was really a wonderful girl.
She certainly was.
The singer says he has saudades of Amelia.
The singer? Well, that's you, Choo-Choo.
di facer tante licenze, ne facero chi você far. Você não sabe o que é consciência, nada que o som para. Você só pensa em luxo e riqueza, tudo que você vê. Ai meu Deus, que saudade da minha. Aquilo tinha que era mulher. Às vezes passava fome ao meu lado e achava bonita.
We must remember the promises which have been kept. The unification of Brazil, the Council of Health for the Indians, the National Department for Child Welfare, the repopulation of the Amazon, housing projects, the march to the west, a new naval school for a new navy, the eager development of aviation, the program for Brazilian industry, Baixada Fluminense, great and greater successful projects for the reclamation of swampland. On this occasion, it's our pleasure to remember that these promises were made and are being kept by President Vargas.
No, it's just a technical question. I see.
And the studio was very unhappy with Wells' method of procedure, that he would record Amelia without ever really clearing the rights to it and leave that go until last, or leave somebody else clear the rights for this. Amelia, Pras owns it. Farewell, Pras owns it.
The dream is coming true. 1942 is going to look fine in the history books. We have great hopes for this year of our Lord. We have a right to them. Already it's a proud year, and proud enough because 1942 is the date of the Pan-American Conference in Rio.
This microphone is in the grill room of the Oka Casino. This is a real party.
All Brazilians like Brazil, as you say, very much.
Very much.
Yes, very much. I wonder why that is, Linda.
Two reasons.
Yes?
First, this is Brazil.
Tudo É Brasil. That's right. Oh, good God. That's true. And second?
Brazilian are Brazilian.
Brazilian are Brazilian.
Yes.
There's only one action to take. I'll introduce Linda Batista's number and turn the proceedings over to her. She's going to sing a song whose title, in Portuguese, is Sabemos Lutar.
We know how to fight.
It's a song for time, for good. It's a song for all these Brazilians who love big Brazil. It's a song for all these men and women who love certain things bigger. It's a song that says this: if I have to fight in the war, I'll defend my country.
Deve defender o céu azul e somos esperanças da América do Sul. Nós somos solideiros e gostamos da paz. Amamos a beleza da nossa natureza. Não é preciso quem nos vier se respeitar. Nós mostraremos que sabemos lutar e lutaremos por este céu azul e somos esperanças da América do Sul. Deve defender o céu azul e somos esperanças da América do Sul.
Thank you.
San Salvador to San Francisco. This is being transmitted over most of the stations in Brazil.
I think the problem was that it was a victim of its timing.
Good long beards. Moses and Joseph and his brethren. The walls of Jericho fall at the sound of the trumpet. Resume.
I'm a sociologist, and I was just quoting a Brazilian saying. God is a Brazilian. That is why he fathered this country so much. Matter of fact, it's estimated that Brazil could contain 900 million people with plenty of living room and food and comfort.
We learn that many of the most famous men in the world.
And what next?
Afterwards, only about 45 million here now. But where would all the extra ones sit? You can't send them into the jungle. No, sir, you're absolutely right. You can't send them into this jungle. There's nothing like it. I'm an explorer, been at it 40 years. Seen everything in Africa and India and Malay, every place. There are special sort of people, karaoke. They get an extra lot of fun out of life, which is understandable when you consider where they live. And they're the best-natured folks I've ever met. I hope they'll forgive me then for playing a rumba on this program. Rumbas don't come from South America. They originated in Central America. The one you hear now was written some years ago in North America. Anyway, for Yankee ears, this song really does stand for some part of the excitement of this place. The glamorous, expensive, international side of it. The golden beaches on the Copacabana, the casinos, the smart women and the pretty girls. The side of Rio the karaoke are naturally proud of stuff. But there's another side of Rio. You hear it? Not a seamy side. Not at all. Even if smart isn't the word for it. No, indeed, if Rio's backyard isn't exactly gala, it's even gayer than Rio's front lawn. There isn't a jazzsmith up north who could ever express it. It's set to music, but the music's all its own. Rich, deep, Brazilian. Comes rolling down to Rio from the hills. Throbs in the streets. Everybody dances to it. Called samba. You scramble the two words music and Brazil together and then unscramble them again. You end up with the word samba. Also, if you scramble a moderate number of Brazilians together and then unscramble them, you find out they've been dancing the samba. I think they'll admit they need very little provocation to begin with. Once they started dancing, they need no encouragement at all to continue. No one is standing by to give them the rhythm, they roll their own.
E não se entrega, não. Olha o jeito nas cadeiras que ela sabe dar. Olha só o revereixo que ela sabe dar. Olha o jeito nas cadeiras que ela sabe dar. Olha só o revereixo que ela sabe dar. Morena boa que me faz pena, bota a sandália de prata e vem pro samba, samba.
sambas up in the States, seen groups of my fellow citizens dancing what they hoped was samba. And from where I stand, which is right in the heart of the samba country, I can tell them now they don't know the half of it.
Pega logo no pandeiro, põe na mão do brasileiro, vê como ele tá no coro. Pega uma sandália, cor de prata, põe no pé de uma mulata, vê como é que falhou.
Samba's the old two-step, really, with a South American accent, or do I mean the one-step? Not being a dancer, I guess I'd better drop out of the conversation. We'll just play this one instead. You listeners up in North America, try it. Roll up the parlor rug, grab your best girl, and see what you make of it.
Basic thing for an actor wants to enrich his performance is that you pick up the cloak and go.
Podemos desassombrradamente afirmar que os nossos problemas sérios não são problemas de homens. Estes sobram prontos a combater.
me explain about his appearance before I go on. I repeat, there was nothing sinister about it. He was as drab as a mud fence, and with his attitude menacing, he merely stood there, waiting, almost drooping a little, the cheap overnight bag in his hand. He looked as though he'd been waiting there for hours, and he hailed me.
Great child with that friend. We used to run to each other when we met in the street.
I don't know much about it. Either way, all I know, he's dead.
When did he die?
Last night, I believe.
It's like it'd be a very cheap funeral for common life. I didn't know anybody to know to it.
It was my unhappy lot to have to tell him that the filming was off.
The sinking of Brazilian ships, especially in North American waters. It seemed needless to say that their loss was no more avoidable than the loss of our own merchant ships, and the Brazilian ships are no easier for our Navy to protect than American ships. Still, some of us here have feared that certain sections of Brazilian opinion might find in those disasters.
Because I had just received word from Hollywood that the president of the film studio had been removed. That sort of thing happens not only in South American governments, but also in film studios.
No, not for a king, upon whose property and most dear life I'm pregnant with my cause, and can say nothing. Should I have told her the truth? I couldn't tell her. It would have been too dark altogether. Well, we've lost the first of the ebb. And see, the river, sleepless, crowded with memories of men and ships that had gone to the rest of home or to the battles of the sea. Hunters for gold, she was the same. Yes, my friends, what greatness has not flowed on the ebb of that river into the mystery of an unknown ocean? The dreams of men, the germs of empires. The river is black tonight, my friends. Look, it seems to lead into the heart of an immense darkness.
And he never repeated it to me that I can remember. According to Phantom, he told Betty and me the story about the furniture.
E nas noites que o céu é azul, essa gente valente e contente se põe a cantar.
Mas o que ele era mesmo, era um sujeito que queria fazer cinema e tinha um grande amor à vida. Isso ele tinha. Ele queria era fazer cinema, a qualquer preço. Cinema para ele é fundamental. Ele filmava com aquela máquina tudo que via. Quem o definiu bem foi o Jacaré. Era um menino chorão, grande, aberto, alegre, tinha sempre um sorriso. Com 26 anos, fazer esse estardalhaço. Agora, dinheiro, é como eu estava falando há pouco, dinheiro para ele não valia nada. Nada, nada. E ele repetia a cena, minutos, horas e horas. Ele só queria a perfeição.
I knew then that I was utterly alone.
Quando voltarei para o Ceará.
Once I found out from Fred that there were about 309 cans of nitrate negative, I called Dick Wilson, whom I knew slightly, to tell him that this material had been found. Dick was overjoyed because he had been under the impression for a long time. Ironic for him was the thought that in front of his lovely house in Santa Monica, which is on the beach, might be the very place where the negative of this film, which had meant so much to him and had had such a profound effect on Wells's career, had been thrown back in 1970. So Dick came rushing over, and that was the beginning of the collaboration between Fred and Dick and me, which led to the making of the short film that was shown in Rio 4 years later at Fest Rio, after Wells's death. At this point, Wells was still alive, and we had hoped that Wells could perhaps we could arrange a donation through the AFI of the negative to Wells himself, so he could finish the film. We'll never see that film, but I think that would have been a very important and illuminating film. Wells himself said that he wasn't very interested in things like carnivals, but I think if you look at the whole career, you'll see things like carnivals turning up in many of the films.
Broadcast and for what it celebrates. For helping more than any single man to make possible the celebration itself. Our thanks. Americans in every latitude of this hemisphere rejoice with you tonight.
This is Orson Welles speaking from Rio de Janeiro, wishing you everything that can be wished for all of us on this Pan American Day. But this is true. We hate whom we hurt, and we mistrust whom we betray. There are minority problems simply because minority races are often wrong. Race hate isn't human nature.
And it scared Hollywood to death. They were ready to burn the film or anything, you know. But wasn't Hedda supposedly your friend? Yes, but what a break for her as a newspaper woman. She had to print that. Couldn't blame her. Imagine what that did to Luella.
O Reisman lutou muito para defender o Orson, né, para conseguir. Mas deve ter havido gente que agentes da RKO mesmo, né, e agentes até manipulados pelos rivais dele de Hollywood, porque eles acharam que aquela invasão de Hollywood por um garotão de 24 para 25 anos, né? Que aquilo era um escândalo, que era um insulto a toda a indústria cinematográfica. Então muita gente deve ter manipulado, os próprios diretores, né? Como ele reagia a isso? Não
não soube já, porque isso não tinha ainda atuado. Isso tudo começa depois do sucesso do Cidadão Kane. A gente começa a saber dessas coisas depois do Cidadão. Eu sei que o sucesso do Cidadão Kane foi cerceado pelas medidas de proibição dos circuitos de exibição, né, nos Estados Unidos. Ele era gentilíssimo, simpaticíssimo, super humano. Não, lá no Copacabana não me lembro de ter visto champanhe, acho que tinha uísque.
O que ele gostava de comer?
Tudo. Ele é o maior comilão da palavra. Gostava de comer e beber demais. Carne, aves, tudo. E de experimentar comidas, né? Ele era um maior comilão. Ele comia comida francesa, comida brasileira. Eu garanto que no mundo inteiro ele experimentou tudo que havia de melhor em todas as cozinhas. A gula.
Are you going to marry me?
Wait a minute, Orson. I don't think that's an interesting fact at all.
I do. My suggestion doesn't seem to have gone so well. I'm sorry.
If Betty Wilson is right, Rio de Janeiro was the first vacation Orson Welles had taken since he became an adult. From about the age of 18 on, he was working in theater, then in theater and radio at the same time, and then he went to Hollywood and made two of the greatest films ever made, while continually, incidentally, going back and forth between New York and Hollywood and doing his radio show.
You take it, for it cannot be that I have injured livers and lack gall to make oppression bitter. Or ere this, I should have fatted all the region kites with its slaves awful. Bloody villain. Treacherous, lecherous, mindless villain.
Well, what about him? The Nazis in Germany have banned me, and the fascists of Italy and Spain have banned me. Here at home, the merest mention of my name is forbidden by Mr. Hearst to all his subject newspapers. But to be outlawed by an American city is a new experience.
Nobody should be the director and producer and leading actor in a picture, because that puts the head of the studio in the position of being a janitor. There's no way he can be fired.
Be nameless. And with drawn guns, demanded what it was that I had in my baggage. Now, there wasn't any frontier. There couldn't be any question of customs. So I asked them cheerfully, and by way of conversation, whether this was a raid on dope smugglers or black marketeers or whatever. They didn't feel like joking. They said, "It is not for you to converse with the police. Open your bag." And I said, "Well, I'm afraid to, because the bag will blow up." And I explained that I had an atom bomb, a small one, in the bag, so wired to the catch that if you opened the bag, there would be a dreadful explosion. Why? I said that I was going to La Scala. I didn't like the opera, and I was angry at the management. I was going to make an outrage, and that was what I had in my bag. I said, "You mustn't joke with the police." Argument went on some time. Very unpleasant. It got to be about 2 in the morning. One of those long, drawn-out practical jokes that you regret. And finally, they got around to looking at my passport. I was, of course, grateful. Most grateful that they did.
Ahead of me stretch 1,000 miles of empty mesa and mountainous prairies. Somewhere among them, he is waiting for me. Somewhere. Somewhere I shall know who he is and who I am. ¿Qué pasó? Los ojos. Un momento, paramos. In a shop window, I was standing there looking at it. I noticed a girl's face reflected in the glass.
Like a snake.
I beg your pardon?
The river.
Oh, it's the river.
And the map.
Yeah.
The way it corresponds there from the coast.
Yeah, it does look like a snake, doesn't it? And that delta there at the mouth of the river, it's like a bird. As if a snake had hypnotized this silly little bird.
Can't you see it is work?
In quiet decency from the Brazilians who have the blood of all men. Remember the story about the committee of blind men who investigated the elephant? They handed in quite a report. One of them said the elephant was shaped like a tree trunk. One of them said he was a snake. One of them said he was a sword. One of them insisted he was made out of a length of manila rope. One of them thought he was a wall or a sort of dry whale. I forget just how it goes. Each expert had a different point of view. That's what I'm trying to say. A different version of the truth depending on which section of the elephant's anatomy happened to grab. Now, I don't pretend to be able to see any better or any more than anybody else who might try to describe these countries. But I promise I won't concentrate solely on the trunk or the tail or the tusk, or natural resources, or Indian war dances, or butterflies, or big business. It's not easy. But I'm going to try to outline enough so you can fill in enough to get some notion of what the other half of America really looks like. Carmen Pizza is a big abrazo.
Thank you very much, Orson. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego, Carmen. Hasta luego. Hasta luego, todo mundo. Good night, Americans.
Drums. 1,000 drums.
Pardon me, Senor Wells, but we must go now. The plane is waiting.
Oh, that's right. Thanks. And excuse me, everybody. I've got to get out of the airport. This week we're flying the Andes. Tomorrow, by special dramatic license, we'll be in Cochabamba.
The prehistoric man was cursing us, praying to us, welcoming us. We couldn't understand because we were too far. We couldn't remember.
O brasileiro, quando é no show, deita de asmado, quando vai no samba, pra não ficar babado, é um devagar, quando chega no salão. O brasileiro, quando é no show, deita de asmado, quando é no samba, pra não ficar babado, é um devagar, quando chega no salão. Não há quem possa resistir, quando o chorinho brasileiro faz sentir, ainda mais de cavaquinho, no pano maneiro, o violão na marcação. Não há quem possa resistir, quando o chorinho brasileiro faz sentir, ainda mais de cavaquinho, no pano maneiro, o violão na marcação. Brasileirinho chegou a coisa, chega também todo mundo dançando, a noite inteira no terreiro, tá o sol vaiado. Quando o baile terminou, turma não ficou, chorou. Até um velho que já estava encostado nesse dia, tá acabou. Pra falar a verdade, estamos conversando com alguém de respeito, ouvindo pra deixar o ter logo um jeito. Deixei o camarada falando sozinho. Gostei, pulei, dancei, pintei, até me acabei. E nunca mais entenderei o tal chorinho brasileirinho.
Closing words. Tudo É Brasil.
Muito bem.
Obrigado.
Fogo do ó, maracatu, Cuba, meu boi, como no cu e varatá. Vem, vem, meu nego, voltar e vem fadear. Toma dentro, fica dentro. Já, ei, vai, oi, ei, oi. Mamãe preta, que o teu filho embola, vem cantar. Eu hoje quero me abraçar no peito em chamas, muitas de vulcanas. Covarde, gigante, bate a pele e cuida do barril. Na praça, teu velho Brasil. Toma nego,